So if Israel had done things right, it would have made it clear that the enemy is Palestinianism. At the minimum, it's Gaza. We should have said to the American president, thank you for everything you're doing, but Hamas does represent the Palestinians in the deepest sense of the word. It represents the deepest Palestinian ethos of no Jewish state. So we're going to assume that Hamas represents the Palestinians because that's where all the euphoria on October 7th, this is the entire war doctrine of Hamas that is based on pre-stashing weapons all throughout Gaza, on creating an integrated weaponized landscape. So right now, all the data points to the fact that Hamas does represent the Palestinians, and this is going to be our working assumption. We would love to be proven wrong, but the burden of proof is on them. Releasing hostages, giving information, surrendering. If Hamas as a collective will not surrender, then individuals surrender. Israel, for example, could have allocated an area, let's say in North Gaza, that is completely clean and basically say anyone who individually surrenders can come. An individual surrender means that they are expunged from the records of UNRWA's refugees. They describe their desire to live next to a Jewish state. They are now refugees. They possess no right of return. They basically let go of the core tenets of Palestinianism. We have not put such demands at all. We have not expressed those demands. And we should have made it clear that from our borders, the borders that were breached, through which we were invaded, we are not resupplying the enemy until it surrenders. We will provide aid to individuals who surrender. That's fine. I think that could have been a great thing to do. Create a zone, say anyone who individually surrenders will be supplied, but only there. Anywhere else, it's war. We're not supplying our enemy at a time of war. Egypt is welcome to supply them, not us.
So one brief follow-up, and then we can get to the other two concessions you mentioned. So when people will accuse Israel of saying using the food or the supplies that are going into Gaza as leveraging that in terms of the war against the Palestinian people or against Gaza, against Hamas in whatever fashion, you're not saying you disagree with whether or not that's true. You're disagreeing whether or not that's wrong of Israel to do, to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
I'm disagreeing on both. First, unfortunately, Israel did not use it. Israel has resupplied its enemy all the time, which shows you that, again, in a way that is very typical to the Israeli and often Jewish condition, we comply with rules that are employed for no one but us, and then we get no credit for complying with these invented rules. So I say we should comply with the international standard, which is you do not supply your enemy until it surrenders. And the fourth concession is, again, to agree that Egypt doesn't exist. For 11 months, we weren't even on the border with Egypt. Or maybe less, but for many months, we were not on the borders with Egypt. We pretended as if there's no border with Egypt. Even in terms of the supplies, we know that there was a very thriving kind of exchange above and below ground with Egypt. Suddenly there's no border. The pressure on Egypt, everywhere in the world, it's acknowledged that you should allow people to escape an area of war. No pressure on Egypt. No mention that Egypt can resupply if it feels that it's necessary. We pretended as if Egypt doesn't exist and totally ignored their complete double game in resupplying Hamas.